Hi, my name is Charlie. I'm one of the lead installers for Wizard Screens, and today I'm going to show you how to install a VistaView Retractable Screen Door. After you've opened up the parts pack, you're going to have the two track guides, a left and a right. You're going to have the two housing screws, and then you're going to have a bunch of screws for the upper and lower track as well as the receiver channel. We also have this rivet pin. There's a little hole right here beneath the handle. That holds this handle in the open position, which is required during installation. So you're going to leave that in there until you have both the upper and the lower tracks installed. When we put these into our testing station before we wrap them up for shipping, this zipper is put perfectly in place so that it runs right inside this little channel here. If you set this door up and you try and pull the mesh out without the lower and the upper tracks in, this zipper has a very good chance that it's going to end up falling out of that little channel. And once that happens, you're not going to be able to get your tracks in. You could damage the zipper and it can cause some serious problems. If during shipping or if you happen to pull it out and this zipper isn't running where it's supposed to run, what you can do is you can get a flathead screwdriver and you can just use that to pry the plastic and open it up a little bit. What that'll do is it'll release the tension off the zipper and then you'll be able to pull it back into place. Okay, so the first step in getting the unit installed is to tack in the upper housing screw. Now you have two options when you're doing this. You can go in through the face of the unit, or you can go in through the side of the unit into the door jamb. So we're not going to completely tighten this screw down yet until we have the track guides installed. That gives us a little bit of flexibility with the unit. So we're just going to leave it like that for now. And now we're going to do the same thing to the bottom of the unit. So now that we have the unit tacked into place, we're going to measure for the tracks. So where we want to measure from, we want to get our tape right up against the main housing unit right there. We've got about 82 inches, and that's from the side of the housing right to the inside of the jamb where we're going to be putting our receiver channel. Okay, so before we make our cut, we need to make a small deduction here for the receiver channel. Our track's going to sit right in between these two parts of the receiver channel, right up against this. And this is going to sit against the back part of the door jamb. So right here, that measurement there is 3/16. So we're going to want to deduct 3/16 off the track length before we make our cut. What I've done is I've made a fresh cut on the side of the track. And this is to get rid of any of the factory paint, just so we have a nice sharp edge. And if you look on the side profile here, right inside that little rounded channel, that's where our zipper is going to run. And you can see it's got a bit of a sharp edge. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a countersink bit and we're just going to get rid of that rough edge. There's usually a little bit of a burr on the side of where we just countersink. So I'm just going to cut that burr out. Okay, so now we're ready for our track guides. So these here are just going to insert into our fresh cut right there. And you're usually going to need a hammer to knock that in tight. Okay, so now that we've got our track guides installed, we can go ahead and make our measurements. So our measurement was 82, and we're going to deduct 3/16 for the receiver. Before we install our tracks, we pre-drill where we're going to put our screws. There's a little notch right on this lower flange here, and that's where we're going to put our holes. And you can see that we put one every 16 inches. Now the 16 inches is very important. We recommend 16 inches. Anything wider than that, the track will tend to start sagging a little bit, and it can cause the unit to jam up and not slide properly. So we want to do a minimum 16-inch spacing on the holes. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and insert the track. The main thing we want to watch out for is we want to make sure that we get this zipper right here. We want to get the edge of that zipper into that little zipper slot right on the top here. We want to make sure we don't try and force it in, because that can damage the zipper and it can make it more difficult to get in later. And that one went in nice and easy. Now it's also very important when you're screwing this down, before you open the unit, you want to make sure that this is nice and straight. So you don't want it to be like this the first time that you pull it out, because right now that zipper isn't sitting straight, it's going to get pinched. So you want to make sure that pull that track forward so you got a nice straight edge in the back there. And now you can see that that zipper's in there properly. It should run nice and easy. All right, so now that we've got the lower track in place, I'm not going to put any screws down yet. I'm just going to get everything dry fitted. So what I'm going to do now is put the receiver channel in place, and that's going to help us hold the upper track into place. When you unpackage this, you can see how the magnet is cut shy on the length of the actual receiver channel. This is so that the track can fit in the top and the bottom. So we're going to slide this receiver into the bottom here. You can see that we took off that 3/16 deduction. And what we're going to do is we're going to lift this magnet up out of the way, and then we're just going to drop that down into place. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one little screw down in here to tack this into place. So now that receiver is going to sit in place, but we still have a lot of movement at the top. So that'll allow us to get that upper track dry fitted. And the same thing as with the bottom track, you want to make sure that you get that zipper into that little channel back there. The track's kind of coming in at a bit of an angle to the cap up here. You may actually have to kind of pull this out slightly and out, just so that track can go in straight. Otherwise it might catch and jam. And I'm just going to bend the zipper a little bit on the back side here, try and bend it into that little channel. So now we can pull it, it moves freely, so we know we're in that track properly. Now that you have both the lower and the upper track installed, you can pull out this pull bar just about 1.5 feet, and then release that upper track, and that'll hold that track and prop it into place. We just pinned the receiver channel at the bottom, so now we have lots of wiggle room with the receiver up here. So now we have to just pull it out, and we're just going to get that upper track engaged right at the top of the receiver, and then that'll just slide right into place. And now we don't have any screws in that upper track, that's just dry fitted, so you can go ahead and make your adjustments and then pop your screws in. We're going to be putting a screw in over here every 16 inches along the track, but we don't have anything to hold this track in place next to the housing, and this is probably the most important part right here. If that track shifts to the back or to the front, even a 1/16 of an inch, it can cause a lot of damage. We're just going to use a 3/4 inch black screw, and we're going to put that in from the front, and it's going to hold everything in place. Once the unit's installed, if you look at the gapping right up here on this first little lip, you can see it's about an 1/8 inch from the top of this cap to the bottom of that little lip right there. You want to generally keep that gapping all the way along while you're screwing in. And with your thumb here, you can kind of lift the track up and down and kind of see where that pull bar slides nice and easy. Once you've got the upper track fully installed, again, we still have that pin in the handle and the brake is released. The pull bar, when you let go of it, it should retract nice and evenly and smoothly at a good speed. Just like that. And that means that you've got that upper track adjusted properly. If it starts to go back and you find there's one little spot where it slows down, then just look up, find that screw that's causing the problem, and make your adjustments. So now that we've got both the upper and the lower track screwed in, we're just going to go ahead and screw in the rest of the receiver channel. This is very easy to forget, so you got to make sure that you do this at the very end. The housing screws that we use to pin the housing in place at the top and the bottom right at the beginning, we want to make sure that we snug those down. All right, so now that we got the unit in place, we're just going to spray the tracks with silicone spray. You have this little runner in the back, which I showed you a couple times. That's where the zipper runs. And that's where we want to get that silicone spray. That's going to help that zipper run nice and smooth. Where we don't want to get the silicone spray is on this front edge right here. This is where the brake runs. After you sprayed the tracks with the silicone spray, you're going to want to let the unit sit for about 5 minutes. And that's because the silicone spray has an acetone in it. The acetone is flammable, and if you use the unit at a very fast speed, that zipper can cause friction and can actually possibly set a spark. So let the unit sit for 5 minutes before you go ahead and use it. Okay, so now that we've got the unit fully installed and we have the track sprayed with silicone spray, we can finally remove that little pin. So we're just going to pull the handle all the way to the open position, slide that little pin out and release it. And now that brake is engaged. You always want to make sure you turn that before you go ahead and pull the unit. And now wherever you release that handle, that's where the unit's going to stay. So thanks for watching this video. That was the installation for the VistaView Retractable Screen Door. If you have any questions, please contact us.